What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the potential stretch that Insomniac Games might have here. This feels like a video I might have done several years ago. I kind of stopped doing videos like this, but I like this idea, and it gets me excited. That's honestly the primary reason for doing a video like this, is just pure excitement of hopefully what's to come. Now, there's a lot of what ifs, okay? Absolutely, and we'll talk about those in this video. But, I mean, what got me thinking about this was the rumor that we talked about in yesterday's videos, right? So the idea that Wolverine is 2026, Venom is after that, and Venom is actually still in development, which that alone surprised me in the fact, I think I predicted in the past, I think Venom might have been canceled. That was my, guess at least at one time. So, hearing that it's still on is awesome. And, you go back to those leaks and you remember that Venom was 2027, right? I think I think Venom and Wolverine were swapped, or Venom was like moved up a year depending on which slide you were looking at, but there was one that said Venom was a 2027 game. So I got to thinking, all right, Insomniac's been kind of quiet. In fact, a lot of PlayStation studios have been kind of quiet, and we talk about it kind of often, right, where we're in this period of just not a lot going on. You get like one PlayStation game a year exclusive, right? And then it's like, all right, well, eventually these studios are probably going to start overlapping. Like, eventually two of these studios are going to have their games done kind of at the same time, and you're going to have a year of two or maybe even three really big PlayStation games. So, okay, that got me thinking even further. Could Insomniac have a 4-year stretch? Now, a lot has to happen in order for this to work, right? And at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't happen. Venom in 2027, and then, so 2028 to me, that's the mystery one, right? That's the hard one. But if you could get Spider-Man 3 in 2028, that would fulfill year 3, and then a new Ratchet & Clank game in 2029. Now, again, Wolverine being next year seems pretty darn likely. It's probably the most likely to happen. Really, I would say of these 4 games nailing the year that I just said, I think Wolverine hitting next year is actually the most likely. Now, I have seen people say, these are the rumors yesterday with Venom, I guess there's some YouTubers out there, I haven't actually watched these videos myself, but I guess there's some people out there that are saying that Venom is basically already done or almost done. I've never seen that, I've never heard that, but apparently some people are saying it. Cool. If that's the case, could you actually get Wolverine and Venom next year? Highly doubtful. So that would, maybe that would actually make the point even better, though. So Venom 2027. To me, Venom is a mystery one, because can you kind of guarantee it for 2027? The odds are no. You probably couldn't. I wouldn't bet a lot of money on that one, right? And then Spider-Man in 2028. See, that one, you could go by leaks. I think that was kind of the idea, that they wanted Spider-Man 3 that year as well. And you could also think, all right, well, between Spider-Man 2018 and then Spider-Man 2, that was 5 years. So they managed to pull it off in 5 years. If they're able to do it again in 5 years, and you think, okay, well, the DLC that was canceled, right? There seemingly was 3 DLC storylines that were canceled probably before the game even released. They might be repurposed into Venom, but 2 of them, I would say, could probably be repurposed into Spider-Man 3, right? Maybe the Beetle one, and even like kind of the parallel universe type one. Like, those 2 could really just be, thrown into Spider-Man. So I guess what I'm saying, or why I'm saying that, is like maybe that helps it. Maybe that's just less work you have to do for Spider-Man 3. To me, that one is the hardest to nail down, this potential 4-year stretch. Ratchet & Clank in 2029, again, you go back to the leak a little while ago, a few years ago, and I think they even said, like, there are actually a few people in Insomniac that are, like, working on it, whether they're doing, like, concept art day to day, right? There's, like, a very small team of, like, under 10 people that are working on a Ratchet & Clank thing. But remember, they want to do Ratchet & Clank. I respect the hell out of that, by the way, because I wish Sucker Punch had that enthusiasm for Sly, or you could probably go to Naughty Dog for like Jak and Daxter. But I can appreciate that. I really can. And Ratchet & Clank freaking rocks, and I'm glad that we are eventually, after Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, I'm glad that we would get, another one. So yeah, and again, like, the reason I make a video like this is just, it's years away. It is years away, but it is excitement, and I do get excited for games. A lot of games I get excited for, but if they could nail that 4-year stretch, look, it's not that unbelievable, because I think one of the first things you could probably say is like, well, is that even possible? And again, like, I think I think Spider-Man 3 and then Venom would be kind of difficult to nail in 2027 and 2028. I think those would be the two that would probably break up this 4-year run if something is going to break it up. I think it would be one of those two games. But is it possible? Yeah. I mean, Insomniac really carried, I think it carried a lot of the PS4 gen. I think it carried, for sure, it carried the early PS5 gen. I mean, they had Miles and Ratchet and Clank. Now, those are two smaller-ish things, right? Miles is the smaller, scale Spider-Man thing, and then Ratchet and Clank, you're not talking about a 20, 30, 40-hour thing. You're talking about like a 10-hour thing. But they managed to do that back-to-back years. And honestly, I mean, what we're asking for kind of in this 4-year stretch, Wolverine would be kind of bulky, but you're, again, not talking about like a 25, 30-hour story. You're probably talking 10, 15, 20, probably at the absolute max. And then Venom would be like a Miles Morales size. And then Ratchet and Clank is not, all that big. And then Spider-Man 3 would be Spider-Man 3, right? So, could you nail a 4-year run? Yeah. And I feel like they've probably done something. I forget like their year-to-year kind of releases, but I'm sure they've done a 2 or 3-year run in the past, right? So to ask it to go to 4, and look, I'm not demanding it. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to go cry about it. But this is it's what we talk about again when we say, okay, like eventually these games are going to happen. Cory Barlog's game is taking so long to make that you might get his game and God of War, the next God of War, back-to-back years because it's just taking so long. So I just like to think that, okay, well, even with all these PlayStation games that are taking freaking forever, eventually they'll overlap even by accident. Or if a studio is making 2 games and one should be ahead of the other, maybe at the, because like Wolverine probably should have been further than a year ahead of Venom. It probably should have been like a 2-year gap. Instead, it's probably a 1-year gap because Wolverine took forever. So, again, like Cory Barlog's thing, Naughty Dog's thing, honestly, they're doing that side project type thing, whether it's a Last of Us or Uncharted game, and then they're doing Intergalactic. Could those games come out back-to-back years? Of course. I actually think that's pretty likely, to be honest with you. So, hopefully that stuff happens more often with PlayStation so that there's just more games. Literally, the quantity is higher there. So, let me know what you guys think about this 4-year run. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon's turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.